Shalom Aleichem, Rabbi Sai. This is Yehuda Levin. Yehi Rava, that this week the program should work for something very new that we're trying to do, which is a live YouTube broadcast of my radio program. And I welcome the people who are watching this live to spread the word, tell your friends and neighbors. Let's say a person has a problem with the slow blood circulation, which many of us older people have, and they need something. So some people, they take all kinds of pills. We don't have to do that. All we have to do is have them turn on right now to 11 at 11 on YouTube channel. You can also see it featured on rabbi.zone. I don't know if it's featured live or it will be put up afterwards. And this program, after it's live, it takes a few hours until it's up, but hopefully it should be up at some point in the not too distant future. And of course, the program will be aired at 6:20 a.m. radio on our 11 at 11 program, GC Thursday evening on WSNR 6:20 a.m. radio. But Rabbi Say, if you want to get your blood circulation going, this is the time, this is the week. And I'm doing this extra early. I usually do it Wednesday night for Thursday because the engineer has to download the program and make sure that it's up in time so we don't do it live. But this week, I'm doing it even earlier, and therefore I want to take the opportunity to give out 3 names to the people who have a gefühl, who would like to help. In Yitzhak Hashem, for Refuah Shalema, both my parents, my mother, Masha Basmato, and let me do this, Rabbi Say, before I go any further. I neglected to do something which is extremely, extremely important, which is I want to put this spontaneously, not spontaneously, but simulcast, if you will. It's not even simulcast, but I want to put this on my WhatsApp as well. So basically that was supposed to be prepared before, it wasn't. So I'm actually going to be matriach, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to be matriach you for a few minutes as I search through my, here we go, and I want to put that on right now, Yitzhak Hashem. Let's see if we can get this thing to go. Okay, so we're now, this program should be in Yitzhak Hashem Zchus. The Torah, the Hashkafa should be a Zchus Lefuah Shalema for Imi Morasi Masha Basmatel, as well as my father, Rev Avraham Halevi ben Chaya Rezel, who's going to be undergoing a little bit of surgery on Thursday. And your humble host, me, Ani Yehuda Halevi ben Masha, I'm also going to be undergoing surgery, I hope, in Yitzhak Hashem this Thursday. And so this should be a schus for Refuah Shalema. I've got a lot on my plate, Baruch Hashem. But this is a very, very important program. Now we have a very, this program will be divided into 4 parts. Patpori, cholent, different little items as they occur in my head. But the 3 main items that I want to cover is, I want to cover the item of Aguda, their response to this potential tragedy of the involvement of the secular government, the State Board of Education in Yeshiva Chinuch. I want to discuss Aguda's role in this whole thing, taking you back through the annals of history. And let us examine Oz Nidbur Yirei Hashem Ishal Rehu. Let us examine if Agudas Yisrael has done the right thing throughout, and what they did that either would help ameliorate and prevent this kind of catastrophe from happening, or are they chas v'sholem perhaps facilitators of this present situation within which we find ourselves. So that's going to be one chelik of the program. Another shorter chelik of the program is going to be a discussion, an update and a discussion of what our reaction should be to the ongoing triple or quadruple N situations. You say, what is a triple N situation, Levin? I haven't heard about that. So you heard it here first. N for Nachashtos, she snakes. N for New Year's celebration. And N for Nakba. Nakba is the word in Arabic tragedy, which they use for the Independence Day, the creation of the State of Israel. Not that we're Zionists or anything in a political sense, but I've adapted that term. We have now the triple N, Nachashtos, New Year celebration, Nakba. It's a tragedy for our children, for our society, and spiritually, it's a tragedy. And we're going to discuss what our reaction should be. And we're going to even dedicate a little song to Flatbush Corrupta Mama and Lady Leah. Absolutely. You'll hear it here first. And actually, we're going to append and amend that to 4 N's. We want you to say no to Nachashta, New Year celebration, Nakba. But we'll discuss that later. The third prong of this program will be a Dvar Torah. A Dvar Torah which I think you will find interesting, if not downright fascinating. Asher Chonen Oisi HaKadosh Baruch Hu, your humble servant, this past Shabbos walking home from shul. And when you have a Chiddush in Torah, you're supposed to share it. And I want to take this opportunity to share it, both as a schus for myself, for my parents, for Rufus and Yeshuas, for Gans Klal Yisrael, and also because I want to fulfill mitzvah l'shmei divrei chachamim. And Rev Brudny, the newest member of the Metzger Gedolei Torah, in a widely disseminated video, told us that this is an attack on Torah, and therefore we have to be mechazik in Torah. I want to discuss if this is an attack on Torah or this is an attack on our religion. It's a distinction, we'll discuss it, but avad gevist, being marbe b'tfilah, like the Gedolim asked us to do in Asar B'Tevis, and being marbe in limud Torah is certainly the best weapon that we have, and so we're going to spend a little bit of time with Divrei Torah. And then, if time permits, we are going to also discuss some of the things in the news. As a matter of fact, let's already show just how ADD Yehuda Levin is. I want to start off our discussion with the Patpori with one item of news. LifeSite News is a major Catholic pro-life and pro-family website that does a phenomenal job of reportage in what's going on throughout the world that affects people who are concerned with morality. It is a wellspring, a reservoir of information. They had an article that I put up around the WhatsApposphere. The article said that in Tanzania, in deep Africa, people are starving. There is great destitution, poverty, and hunger. And international aid agencies are offering food. However, they are insisting that there be some sort of a recognition, I don't know if it's signatures, etc., that there is no discrimination, quote unquote, based on people's sexual orientation. That means they're trying to force feed acknowledgement, not only tolerance, but respect. And there's a big difference between tolerance and respect. I might tolerate salmon croquettes if I'm going to a place where the balabosta is serving it. I could tolerate it. I certainly don't have to like it, enjoy it, or even respect it. Kal v'chomer, if you're telling me I have to tolerate, see how this sounds. You must tolerate adultery. I must tolerate it because Deborah, the lesbian glick, is taking it off the books in New York that it shall no longer be on the books. So therefore, you have to tolerate it lechatchila ariba. Sounds crazy to me. How about the next step? You have to respect adultery. It's two consenting adults, and if they decide to do it, it's nobody's business. They're not hurting anybody, and you have to respect it. Excuse me, this is why Yehuda Levin is not a choshev person, because he talks such low talk. It's gefährlich, it's disgusting. To the person who tells me I have to respect adultery, homosexuality, transgenderism, lesbianism, bisexuality, trisexuality, pansexuality, and all the other 40 or 50 different shameless that they have, binary, schmeinary, I tell them basically, take a short walk off a very high cliff. In other words, gezich and dereld. Excuse me. That's what I say. Tolerance, respect. But there's a difference between tolerance and respect, just so you should understand. Now, the Tanzanian bishops and cardinals said, hell, no. They didn't say hell, but they said, in effect, that's hell. And no, we're not going to say yes to that. We'd rather go hungry, in other words, starve, than acknowledge, give respect, elevate the status of this deviance. Now, where does that leave us when in the deep, dark part of Africa, where they're starving, their religious leaders, their Moira Derech say, in effect, we will go hungry, but if the price is, we have to acknowledge. Now, let's take a look back in the annals of history so we can start to discuss with this trigger, this catalyst. We can look back in history and start to discuss the role of Agudas Yisrael in getting us to the current crisis that yeshiva education is facing. In 1984, in December, Mayor Koch announced an initiative, article something or other, I forget the number, that no group receiving money from the city would get that money unless they indicated by signing official documentation they do not discriminate in any way against a person or towards a person based on their sexual orientation. That means we have to recognize the status of a person based on their bedroom misbehavior. The Salvation Army, which is a Protestant group, an evangelical group, I think, they immediately said, hell no, we're not doing it, we're taking you to court. Not much later than that, this happened in late December, not much later than that, the Catholic Church joined them and said, hell no. Agudas Yisrael, what did Agudas Yisrael do? Guess what? I think they actually had signed some of the documents. And if you check today, Ad Hayom Hazeh, I'll bet you anything that they signed such documents de rigueur. De rigueur, they're signing such documents that they don't discriminate against these things. So for all I know, it even says transgender in it. But this was back in 84. I went and I held on January the 1st, 1985, I went down to City Hall with a bunch of Jews and Gentiles on a very slow news day. There's a big football game they play that day, and it was a cold day. I went down and I announced to the media in advance that I am presenting the Scrooge Award to Mayor Koch. Now, if for those who are literary, you've read Dickens, there's a famous Dickens story that has to do with Kratzmach. And there was an old cheap man who his name became synonymous in the vernacular with being a Copson. And his name was Scrooge because he was grouchy and mean and he withheld money for presents or for largesse or for charity, etc. I announced that I'm going to be giving the Scrooge Award to Mayor Koch for attempting to defund religious and non-for-profit institutions who refuse to sign on the dotted line their tolerance, respect, acknowledgement that they don't discriminate. What does it mean, don't discriminate, in case there are some lowbrows out there that don't understand what that means? That means they want to tell a school that if a bus driver comes with an earring and a mohawk and a big T-shirt saying, I'm gay and proud, and on the T-shirt there's a picture of two men hugging and kissing, if you don't discriminate, you have to use that bus driver or gym teacher or English teacher or whatever it is. Those kinds of things. That's why we can't acknowledge that kind of stuff. That's why the baker is having so many problems, even after he won the Colorado baker, Jack Phillips, in the Supreme Court, where I went down with 2 or 3 other Yidden to stand outside on a cold day in the Supreme Court last year when they were presenting his case. And even though he won, Colorado was trying to go after him again. He's fighting it again. Are we fighting it again? How? By voting for the Mishkosim? By clutching for Cuomo? Still not enough. Rabbi Say, jumping from thing to thing, Mario Cuomo announced he's going to be pushing further advances to protect, quote unquote, LGBTQRSTU. They don't have enough protections yet. In other words, they haven't shoved it down our throats enough. But Andrew is going to shove it more. You understand? And now he can do it because they control the liberal Democrats, the Assembly, and the state Senate. Now, here's something, a secret that a AGUDA person, high up functionary said, but of course, they wouldn't have the guts to say it, Barabin, but I could say it, and they have plausible deniability, they can deny it. They said, we no longer have any friends in Albany. They're either very, very liberal, or they're openly Mishkevei Zachar. Let's give a big hand to AGUDA for finally realizing this. You understand? They had a lot of friends until now, right? Yeah, of course. Remember how AGUDA was involved with all of the Far Rockaway Lawrence Five Towns community? For Dean Skelos, the dean of the Republicans, the head of the state Senate. Remember, good old Dean, the religious churchgoer? I don't know if he's in jail yet or he's going to jail. Well, Dean Skelos, well, we're going to tell you about Agudas Yisrael and Dean Skelos and why we are in the mess that we are in today. And I'm sorry to say, b'makom she'eshchil Hashem ein cholten koved l'rav v'kal v'choym v'loy la'askonim b'chlal nit. Going back to 1985, I immediately held a press conference on January the 1st at City Hall that was then bereft, empty of people because it was closed. I stood outside City Hall, and it was a slow news day, so the media came down. The Daily News, Newsday, WINS, I think, came down. We had 4 to 5 different media outlets. In New York, the Big Apple, baby. I was all of 30 years old. I had just turned 30. Now, Mr. Koch gets up in the morning after he says Moida Ani. He gets a call from his press secretary. He says, Mr. Mayor, we got a problem. What's the problem? He said that Jew boy Levin, that troublemaker who 3 or 4 years ago interviewed you and caught you then, and I'll tell you that's another story. Maybe I told it already, maybe I didn't, but I'm not telling it tonight. He's now making trouble again. What's he doing? Well, he's going to City Hall on a slow news day to present you with a Scrooge Award because in this Kratzmach season, this quote-unquote holiday season, you are depriving all the agencies that help poor people of being able to help because they don't want to transgress on their religious convictions and they don't want to endorse a non-discrimination, which means a tolerance and respect and acknowledgement of people's bedroom misbehavior. So Mr. Mayor says to the press secretary, so what should I do? Mr. Mayor, the best thing you should do is go down there and make your statement defending yourself so that the story won't have so many legs. Meanwhile, back at home in Flatbush, I took a poster and I cut out a picture of Koch's face and I wrote on it Scrooge Award 1984 on the poster, and that was the award. We go down, let's say it was 12 o'clock on January the 1st, 1980, I think might have been 1984, right? He did this at the end in December of 83. This was 1984, January the 1st. And we're standing there, some nice Edel Goyim, a Galach or two, myself. All of a sudden, who comes there with one of those woolen snow hats? The mayor. Everybody has heard some uncles, the mayor. Like nobody expected, you understand? He was taking a frontal attack. So what happened? Everybody was knibbling upon him like Haman, moved away. They were scared. In his anger. Not Yehuda Levin. I was too dumb to be scared. I stepped forward towards him. I said, oh, Mr. Mayor, how nice of you. You have come in person to accept your award. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Never mind. And he ignores me. He walks over to the microphone and he starts to talk like he owns the place. He's the mayor of New York. They used to call the mayoralty of New York the second hardest job in the United States after president. Anyhow, by the way, there was a Mooney newspaper called the New York City Tribune, and they snapped the picture, which I have, and one day I'll hold up on the screen to show you. They show Mayor Koch talking, and they show me with my face sideways. You see my black hat, and you see me holding the sign that Scrooge Award, standing on the side of the mayor while he's talking. I'm holding the sign. Of course, the other newspapers wouldn't publish such a thing, but you have to be media savvy. When I threw the homosexual book list that they were giving out in the Borough Park and Brooklyn public libraries to these school students, and I tossed that to Mayor Koch and said, "Shame on you." I did that with the intention the media should take a picture. It landed up in the New York Times. So you got to frame these things. You got to know what you're doing. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose, but you got to try. So the mayor comes, he makes a statement. We don't discriminate. And then when he finishes, okay. I said, would you like your response? No. And he leaves. And then I had the podium. And the next day it said, Army's allies, meaning the Salvation Army's allies, march on Koch. You see, and there was an article there was the article in that morning newspaper and the New York Newsday, and we did what we had to do. Shortly after that, I gave the names of the Igud HaRabbanim, the Rabbinical Alliance of America, on an amicus brief, a friend of the court brief that was filed by various religious organizations in support of the Catholics and the main people, the Salvation Army, that didn't hesitate. They were the Nachshon ben Aminadav. It should have been us. We're supposed to be the Or La'amin. We're supposed to be the ones who said today in our slichos about how we go be'eshu b'mayim. We're the ones. What happened to that self-sacrifice? Has somebody given up a sushi meal yet for this big, tremendous tragedy that we have in going on in New York State? Is there real ernstkeit? If there is, I didn't notice it. I didn't notice it yet. But anyhow, it took Aguda many months and a lot of embarrassment until they went ahead and signed on as a friend of the court brief. Or maybe they filed their own friend of the court brief. But it was only way after I did. And if they try to tell you different, like you see in this book, this airbrushed book about the great tzaddik and askin, Rabbi Moshe Shera, there's a lot of hui. So you say to me, what does hui mean? I'll tell you what hui means. It's actually huya. And this is how it is. It's an anecdote from the Reader's Digest. The member of the government came down to the Indian reservation in the 1880s or the 1890s to see what the great white father in Washington could do for the poor Native American indigent people. And wherever he was going, they were screaming, and he would speak, and we love you, we want to help you, we want to educate you, and everyone is screaming, huya, 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 huya. And he didn't know what huya meant, but he was very flattered. It sounded like they were all cheering him on, like yay Yankees. He didn't understand Apache, whatever it was, Dakota language. Finally, as he's leaving to get into the wagon to drive him back to the train, there's a big pile of buffalo bovine dung. For those who don't know what dung means, it means glolim. For those who don't know what glolim means, it means feces. For those who don't know what feces mean, it means excrement. In other words, it really describes today's politicians and the political situation and the Nakba and the people making the Nakba in Flatbush. Dung, feces, excrement, Ashayotza stuff. So one of the Indian chiefs turns to the white official that came from the government and he says to him, be careful, don't step in the huya. So he understood the whole time they were screaming huya, huya, what they were telling him. You understand? Rabbi Sai, this book has a lot of gewaldige, chizikdike things, but some stuff in this book is pure huya, huya. Okay, they tell the Maisa about fighting against Koch for the in that particular case. They make it sound like Aguda was a leader. In fact, they were Baba Mises, kicking and screaming. Let them produce the day for you that they entered their amicus brief. I can show you what I did on January the 1st. I can show you the amicus brief on the Salvation Army, and it was, believe me, a few weeks, if not months, before Aguda finally signed. So, Abusha v'cherpa. Abusha v'cherpa. Okay? Now, the point is, what was the philosophy of AGUDAS Yisrael, what was the philosophy of AGUDAS Yisrael with regard to dealing with immorality and everything else? The answer is, let me quote you. I'm holding up, this is, you understand, before we go to be Mishtadl in Rome, the Chazal used to learn the parsha of Yaakov and Esav. And what do they do before they go on Aguda Live or the convention or any of the other Huya, or Chatzi Huya, or Lemechtel Shishul Huya, right? We have to learn the official Bible. Hold up. Every house, put this in advertisement, every house must have at least one copy of the authentic How to Be a Shtadlin. As a matter of fact, I'm really surprised when they made that Huya on Sunday at the convention that everybody should be Shtadlonim and what they can do, grassroots activism. I was very surprised they had all these very nice fellows who run the various offices throughout the states, etc., etc. Nobody said you should, it's obligatory, you must have at least one or two copies in your house. I'm very surprised they didn't do that. Shame on them. I think they were throwing great disrespect for the legacy of the late great Rabbi Moshe Shara. So we're now Kindle open your books, because I'm sure each and every one of you out there has this important book. Okay? I wonder if the new curriculum of the state of New York will allow this to pass as literature. Page 294 of the Rabbi Shara book. You can recognize because it has the picture of Rabbi Shara meeting with President Jimmy Carter and smiling. Now, let me read this to you. What did Rabbi Shara hold? On page 293, it was called Knowing His Limits. Knowing His Limits. A big title here, Knowing His Limits. In other words, what is he telling us? Let me read this to you. Another aspect of Rabbi Shara's success with public officials that he never asked them to do anything improper, of course not, or something that was beyond their authority, something that was illegal. Okay. Now, if you turn to page 294, consequently, he never wasted time trying to convince a politician to do anything that he would view as political suicide and avoid placing politicians in the uncomfortable, as Michael Savage would say, in the uncomfortable position of having to refuse him. His goal in any negotiation was to make it easy as possible for either side to say yes. So you know how you make it so easy? You want Geld. The other side wants Mishkav Zacha, wants abortion on demand, killing babies, and Ramosha of Yankov were very against everything else. So you know what you do? You make it easy for them to say yes. You don't push on the Mishkav Zacha, you don't push on the abortion, and you make it easy for them to throw taxpayer dollars, which these liberal Democrats love to Balavatova increase the national debt by throwing taxpayer dollars for all kinds of causes. So that was the Shara philosophy. You have it right here in the book, but let me go a little further. Thus, he concentrated exclusively on points of potential agreement. Kumbaya, we all get along. Hava, Nagila Hava, and Rabbi Shara, and Ted Sheretz Kennedy. Hava, Nagila Hava, and Rabbi Shara, and Sheretz Schumer, and Sheretz Zaholaz, and Sheretz Zaholaz, and the Tzahadik, Rabbi Shara, we all get along. Everything is coming along. We all get along. Don't be uncomfortable. Give us the geld for the yeshivas, give us the breadcrumbs and we'll be quiet. We don't want to make you feel uncomfortable. Abortion, forget it. Who talks about it? We agree to disagree. Can't you see? It would be very backwards to nudge me. So don't nudge me and I'll give you some money. That's what they told him and he agreed. He agreed. Levin, you liar. How could you say such a thing? How could I say it? The book says it. Thus, he concentrated exclusively on points of potential agreement, avoided all discussions of philosophical issues. You understand, Mishkav Zacha is a philosophical issue. Abortion, a philosophical issue. Because he had no chance of convincing the other side. I didn't know you have to convince the other side to agree with you on Mishkav Zacha or abortion if they're liberal. I think what they have to understand is you're not going to have our votes and will be like the Tanzanian bishop will say, don't give us your food if we have to endorse Mishkav Zacha. Don't give us your breadcrumbs for yeshiva for textbooks. Very interesting. And AGUDA Live with Rabbi Schnaller, Rabbi Markowitz, and Rabbi Zweibel, where he's briefing us the tremendous amount of information he told us. He was basically saying, listen to it again, that they get breadcrumbs. He didn't use that term, but that's what they get, krishkelach. And Rabbi Zweibel, hoy, 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 we can feel swell. We have Rabbi David Zweibel fighting with all his strength for Torah values. Rabbi Zweibel will always tell us Torah views. Rabbi Zweibel says now, 40 years after the kissing up has been going on, we won't sell out our values for a cup or a pot of lentils. Ooh, very stark. When did you come up with that? You don't discuss philosophy. For the last 40 years, hoya, you've been selling out for a pot of lentils. You, Hapesha, also, you said it's only breadcrumbs on this thing. But you were selling out, and here is the architecture for it. Here's the architect and the architecture. Here are the building plans for the sellout. This is a smoking gun. For shame, for shame. Let's continue to read. Some of his most important relationships were with liberal Democrats, like Senator pro-abortion Ritzeach Teddy Kennedy, who also brought in all the illegal aliens and kashered them, and is responsible for part of the problems we're having today with murders, with Ritzicha, with drugs and everything else. He's a good friend because he gave us the Krishkas. He did something for Shabbos. Dummies! Don't you understand? Whoever frames this, they want to lashkichem Torah. They're not interested. They're not interested in stopping you from Torah. You oxen, you foolish. Do you believe it, or are you trying to fool other people? What are they interested in? Well, let's figure out. When it comes to Ehrmont, when it comes to a Jackson, when it comes to a fight of an Erev, whose side is the government on? The religious side. When it comes to certain things about Shabbos observance and you can't fire a person, whose side is the government on? They're on the Jewish side. So, are they trying to stop us? No. They say, keep your Erev, it's a choik, it's weird, telephone wires, this and that, working on Shabbos, Sabbath, keep that, yeah, we don't care. But we want you to acknowledge that the government has the right to come in and inspect and dictate and criticize and redirect your education, whether they talk about Torah or not. Even if they compromise, get this straight, even if they compromise in the hours, this is a feint. You know what a feint is? If you can see it on the screen, you see I'm throwing the hand. Look, I'm feinting with the right and hitting you with this. I'm feinting to get you to defend from my right hand. Meanwhile, I hit you with the left hand. That's a feint, F-E-I-N-T. It's a fake out. They're speaking about the hours. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'akol niyeh b'dvaroi. L'chaim tovim l'shalom rufus and Yeshua's. Rabbi Yisrael, believe me, this takes koiches out of me. Rabbi Yisrael, usually I try to make the bracha before the program starts, but I forgot. I needed that drink. Rabbi Yisrael, they are not interested in preventing us from learning Torah. What they're interested in is that we should embrace and be inculcated with the values that they choose to champion. They want to change, as a very bright Eloi told me, they're not so interested in whether we have chukim. They wouldn't be bothered if we have an Efa Para Aduma. They wouldn't be bothered by that. They're bothered by our mishpatim. Because unlike that lowlife, Shmuli Bateach, who wants to say that Mishkav Zachar is a chayk, because he has a chayk, he has a hole in his head, a chakika in his head, so he wants to say that he's mezayef the Torah, Shmuli Oisor Bateach. Shame on the Lubavitchers for not discrediting him. Oh, we did it once. In 1998, we did it once. That's why he can traipse all over and do shidduch in the Lubavitch and everything else, right? Shame on the Lubavitch, the big PR people. They take the Rebbe seriously when this guy embarrasses the Rebbe. You understand? See, he says it's a chayk, Mishkav Zachar is a chayk. It doesn't make any sense. I mean, because Shmuley doesn't know. Maybe the Department of the State of Education, State Department of Education has a right because they see how little Shmuley Batech knows about anatomy. He doesn't understand the anatomy of a man. The anatomy of two men was not made to do a procreative act. Idiot. He doesn't understand that. So it's a chayk that it's asa, right? Not we could learn sneers from a cat. And how do we know? Right? Very good, Shmuley. So where was I? What they want from us, and this is the smoking gun, they want to redirect, they want to brainwash, inculcate our children, okay, to their ultra-liberal, extremist, radical left, all embracing of schmutz ideology. How do you know, Levin, that that's what they want? That's not the only thing, but that is a main thing. Because the people who are driving this thing, okay, they like to say that the reason this started is because of Muster. If Muster wouldn't have been Meiser, the Meiser, if he wouldn't have done it with a bunch of malcontents, I disagree. They would have gone after this anyhow. They don't work quickly. Bureaucracy, it goes very slow. They were planning this for a long time, okay? They were planning this for a long time, and they waited until such a time as they have control of both houses, because Kol Zman, they would lead the New York State Senate. They were limited in what they can do. So that's the first thing you have to understand. Now, who does Muster stand at a press conference with? He stands with two principal politicians, political office holders. One of them is Drum, Chaim Deutscher, Flatbush's great friend Drum, and he tells me, you know, because I have such a good relationship with the open Mishkav Zachar, super radical Drum, who voted against security guards and monies for yeshivas because we are homophobic. This is Chaim's good friend, but I got him to do this, I got him to do that. Yeah, so we all pay a price. So Drum goes ahead and he's with the guy, Muster, who according to some is responsible. I say it would have happened anyhow without Muster. He just accelerated the process. But that's a small point now. It's immaterial. There's always VLAMALSHINIM VZEDIM. And you should have kavod these mamzerim rishayim. I'm called. That's right. That's right. I'm choshid on the yichus, the Erev Rav Nixon. Probably there might be mamzeris there. Who knows? But if they're not literal, they're definitely figurative, and that's right, exactly. And you should definitely have in mind that if the Rebbeinu Shalom holds that they're Zaydim and they're Oivim and they're VLAMALSHINIM, and the Chazal found it important enough to make a 19th brach in the Shemona Esrei VLAMALSHINIM al Tisikva, you can imagine we'll say Gelitten, they want to apply it. And by the way, this is the other one prong of my program. What are we supposed to do with these triple N's? What are we supposed to do with these? You want to have it quadruple N's? Noshim, nechashois, female snakes, New Year celebrating, nakbaites. We're making a tragedy. So I want to tell you what you should be doing. If you care for Kvod Shamayim, did you feel bad about it today? Did you daven about either of these things today? The state thing for the yeshivas, for Aguda to do tshuva and come out and ask mechila from everybody and acknowledge and change with a sea change course. Enough of it, not more of the same. Kissing up and confiding and supporting all these lowlifes who are doing this to us, who have been doing this for 40 years. Shehigiyanu v'kimanu v'higiyanu ad hazman hazeh. Thank you, Aguda. You understand? This is the garbage that we're doing. You should daven VLAMALSHINIM and with a stipulation that if Flatbush corrupta mama and lady, she's no lady, no, she's no lady, Leah Forrester, and all who attend and are mechazik that terrible event, that it's bad enough that they're celebrating a Gentile New Year's with all that implies. It's bad enough they're speaking at to a mixed crowd and making comedy, And if they have song there, it's a shaila with shira alayayin, and it's something which is certainly not a sudas mitzvah. Although maybe the Vada Rabbanu of Flatbush will now come out and say, if now Sholem, it's a sudas mitzvah also, right? But probably it's not a sudas mitzvah, okay? But the worst thing is because of now what they clearly represent. She represents Flatbush Mama flirting with bisexuality. When she's asked, you're bisexual? Well, that's a complicated question. I don't know. And she plays these little cute games. So she's teaching the teeny boopers and the flip brains that follow her, that don't know any better. It's cool, it's cute to flirt with bisexuality. And then, of course, there's Layla, because she has a tremendous drive, so she's got to wear trousers also. You understand? That's part of the tremendous Yetzer Hara, right? As me'es chazer Leah, zel l'surim from above. You got to go whole hog. And I didn't go. Yeah. So Flatbush Mama ginned you up. And we saw what you said with the JTA, with the Daily News. You bluffer, you faker. You put her on the tape. And by the way, while you're at it, Krisher or Kirshner, whatever owns his Garden of Eden, if it was up to me, I would boycott him for another reason. That's right, I'm saying it. I would boycott him. You know why? What kind of a business is this to call the rabbis mafioso? They're a mafia for standing up, even though they're denying that anybody ever told you this. Probably you're telling the truth. Who the blank asked you to call the rabbis mafia? And why did you say, I have nothing against LGBTQ? You have nothing against it? I have nothing against not eating in your restaurant. The stupid fools who go and reward this person, it's his parnasa. It's his parnasa. He had to say rabbis are mafia and I have nothing against LGBTQ. You don't think he's going to have to give a din v'cheshbon for that? He had to do that also, right? Als his mutter. But maybe he was reading the Shara book and he said, well, we have to get along. We have to agree. You know what? Maybe after 120 years, Kirsch will come up and he'll say, I want to summon to the witness stand to defend me the Shara doctrine, the great Rabbi Shara doctrine. Let me continue. It didn't get bad enough. Let me establish to you clearly the smoking gun. Let me read it to you here. Some of his most important relationships were with liberal Democrats like Senator Kennedy, whose view on a host of social issues. You know what social issues means? Abortion, ritzicha, gay rights, censoring pornography, okay? Making divorce easier. These are social issues. Core issues of morality and decency. Kedoshim tiyu. Derecheres kodem l'Torah. Those are the social issues. Rabbi Shara, such as abortion, could not have been further from Rabbi Shara's. He was mekatzel katza, but, quote, listen to this. Here is the smoking bazooka, the smoking cannon, the smoking nuclear bomb. I ran against this miscreant, this ultra-lefty. I've spoken about this in previous programs, Stephen Solas. Quote, he did not push when he was not going to get anywhere, says Stephen Solas, who represented a liberal Brooklyn constituency. Rabbi Shara had many fish to fry. Why endanger the relationship by forcing an issue like abortion? Listen to the Gedolim agree to this. The Gedolim agree to this. I'm screaming. It's irrespectful. About to tut-face Schreitman. It's outrageous. Reb Moshe of Yaakov agreed with this. They were so stark against abortion. Bluffers. And Schumer, I'm saying, hey, this Schumer, when I went to testify in congressional subcommittee, Schumer told me the same thing. I'm good friends with Rabbi Mara Shera. He never made an issue with me out of an abortion. And gay rights and gay marriage, he did, yeah. I have to back out. You have to know the truth. And these are his acolytes. Where is Rabbi Brudny and where is Rabbi Reisman? Quote me. I have the biggest derech eretz to them, but quote me to him. Where are they getting their in-depth information? Did they read the entire guidelines? And if they do they understand it? Who's giving them their information? Josh Mailman, a good Mir Yeshiva Talmud, a very fine person. He's on 2 transition teams. One of them is for the one who started the Mishkav Zohar organization. She is now the assemblywoman, or is it the state senator of Coney Island, Seagate, otherwise known as Seagate, etc. Josh is on that transition team. And the one who beat Marty Golden, Josh is on that, and he's honored to be on. You understand, Marty Golden, who wasn't great, but he was much better than the Chazara we have now. So he's going to be the one to give the information. He does not have a schnapps glazel worth of hashkafa on these things. He has no Messiah. He doesn't know what Rav Moshe held, Rav Yaakov held. He doesn't know how to read the bills. Who's going to do it? Who's telling them? The answer is nobody, probably. It's all here. It's all here in a few paragraphs in this book, The Smoking Gun. Okay? Later on, there's a quote somewhere about Shuma. Yeah, listen to this. Rabbi Sharon knew how to pay back such favors to the Orthodox community. When Shuma found himself in trouble with some of his Orthodox constituents over his vote against a congressional resolution authorizing the first Iraq war, Rabbi Sharon made the rounds of Orthodox community to tell people all that Congressman Shuma had done for the community. His efforts on behalf of Shuma point to that was perhaps his greatest asset in public life, his reputation as someone whose loyalty, as Shuma put it. You could trust him absolutely everything. All I can tell you is this: everybody knows that Shuma's a nice fuff. Everybody knows he did precious little for the general community. There's a certain very big Askin whose name everybody knew, and he told me that once people were challenging, what did Shuma do? They were challenging him. He said, go to this rabbi. This rabbi was a big Askin. He told me, I had to scratch my head to figure out what did Shuma do for us. And he told me he came up with one certain little thing, which I'm not going to say because I might identify the Askin. It's a bluff. He was a swarmy, self-centered, selfish, who did what he had to do. He showed up with all the bar mitzvah, all the malkas and everything else, and oisvarf. Rabbi saying oisvarf. So let's chazer over what we've accomplished tonight. What is the main thing they want to do? So let me tell you the history. In many, many, many years ago, before there was a zach with the geyachs and chazerai, there was a law put on the books, a regulation law called 801A, that you have to teach people. It's like a derech eretz type thing. You have to teach them civility and civics and to behave and to respect, and now not to be a savage and an oisvarf, okay? In 2010, the Mishkevei Zocha were feeling their oats. That's an expression for really they were getting places, big time. So what did they do? They passed a bill that anybody who's bullied because of sexual orientation, you can have this knas and that shekel thing. And what they would do is legitimating this misbehavior. They put in an exemption because they weren't secure yet. So they put in an exemption for the Jewish, for religious yeshivas and institutions. Okay, they don't have to go along. The second part of the bill was they were going to make the 801A, they were going to expand its parameters of what's called teaching civics and civility and such to include tolerance and respect for all kinds of diversity, which means for the transgender, yeah. They did not put in an exemption for yeshiva. They're very crafty in 2010. So what does that mean? So they could always say later when the bureaucrats write the regulations of the intention of the law, in the first part of the law, they exempted yeshivas. Since in the second part was civics and civility, they didn't. It's a raya barura. They meant that this applies to private and religious schools as well. So did AGUDA do anything about it? Show us how much they did. Guess what? There were a few askanim, kinderlach basically, who went alone, 2 or 3 people, and they pressured and pressured until the assembly passed a bill overwhelmingly that yeshiva should be exempt from 801A. But then it went to Dean Skelos, the good friend. Oh, Achaver Dean Skelos, we all came out to vote and support you, AGUDAS Yisrael, to Rabbi Bender and everyone in the 5-town. Dean Skelos. Dean Skelos, for his grubber personal reasons, the one who ultimately betrayed us in Mishkav Zacha marriage. Dean Skelos did because he let the Republicans not vote as a caucus, but vote their conscience, and that's why we have it today. This tzaddik, who's now going to sit in jail, I feel terrible for him. Dean Skelos refused to make a companion bill, so it never passed, not in 2010, not in 2012, not afterwards, and ad hayom hazeh. Now, where at the time, where was Agudas Yisrael? Where was Rabbi Lefkowitz? Where was Rabbi Beiser? By the way, Rabbi Beiser at one point was moida. Maybe there's an email. If not, he told one of the Askanim that it possibly could apply. We don't think it will apply. He said, now this is the smoking gun. At the end, Agudah will come in. Yay! We got them to say it's equivalent. So the hours and the stat, we settle this, we settle that. But if they allow them sutrate, if they allow them to come in for any reason, to inspect, to see curriculum, etc., or they allow them to push 801A, they might not do it today. They might do it in 3 years, in 5 years. You understand? That's how you boil a frog and he doesn't know. You put him in the hot water, but you make it imperceptibly hot, and then he's dead. That's how they've been doing it to us. And you know who the ones are responsible? I am saying it here now. And I challenge anybody, any of the cup mentioned from Agudas Yisrael, let the great and vaunted, associated with the philosophy of Agudas Yisrael, the great speaker and writer, Rabbi Nosson Sherman, let him come and explain it to us different. Let any of the Rabbanim explain why I'm wrong. I'm going by the book. This is Chazarai. I've spoken about this before. This is why we're suffering. The politicians read us like a nurse reads and a mother reads a thermometer that she inserted in her baby's mouth. They read it and they read it accurately. All of this, philosophical things we don't get involved, that's why we're involved. So that's why we have the problem today. Aguda owes us a big, I'm sorry. And I'm not sure if they're even telling this Rabbi Brudny or Rabbi Reisman who are handling this leadership in the fight, did they write a letter yet? We will not yield on 801A. Did they call a press conference about this? Is Aguda going to make a massive rally with Jews and Gentiles? Is Agudas Yisrael going to Tiltelman outside? They were able to tell David Schick to raise money for Mario Cuomo, even though they're not political. Rabbi Scherer was more than willing to run around to the Orthodox community for Shuma, the Oisvarf. I wonder in the Olam HaEmes if they say, Emes, thank you for what you did for Shuma. Now look what we have, Shuma, a swarmy Jew who is perceived by tens of millions of Trump supporters and religious Christians as the anti-Yashka, as the worst, as the Zevel, as the Exumat, as the Huya. This is what we helped him. Halavai would have been in trouble. Yes, Rabbi Sai. This is the truth that you won't hear anywhere else except here. Please, if you want to be a shutef, I'm begging you. Money I need desperately, but I don't expect anybody to give me. If you want to contact me, you can certainly help out. It would be a big mitzvah. RabbiLevin@gmail.com, RabbiLevin@gmail.com. Or get in touch with me. Please get in touch with me at 718-692-4381. New York City, get one. 718 New York City, get one. Leave a message. We could use significant amounts of money to pay for this radio station. I'm already something like $16,000 in debt. I'm doing this because I believe that's what my Rebbe wanted me to do. But again, what we've accomplished tonight is we're showing you clearly the documentation. It was the errant philosophy, the turning the other cheek, the agreeing to disagree on philosophy and social issues and not to discuss it because we can't do it. They don't do it because I told you, I spoke about this weeks ago, but you might not remember when the Conservative Party chairman, Michael Long, said you have to fight the model when he's starting to turn pro-Mishkav Zachar, because if not, he'll do more and more. That's what happened. The reason that they were emboldened to do this is because the Aguda and the OU and the rest of the Jew boys, I mean, forget about the Hasidic ones. The Hasidic ones get an A+ in Esnan Zaina, in selling out the religion, the Rebbe's, the Kanoyas, the Alts Ding, and selling it out for a few Krishkas, for a few programs. Oh, they're the winners by far. I mean, we're not even talking about them. Of course, they contributed to this garbage also. Of course, when they were holding the original vote on abortion in New York State, and it won by 1 or 2 votes or something like that. Of course, the guy from Wiensburg called up Rabbi Lipa Lefkovich, the Rosh HaKahul, and he said, "It's nicht abortion." You understand? All of that is leading to today. The wheels grind, they go very fine, they go very slow, but now we're lecking the bandle. How about How about a rally of 50 or 100,000 people? The evangelicals, the Catholics, the Islam, the Muslims, the Pakistanis. How about a rally like that? How about more than that right in New York State? Why can't AGUDA be the tail that wags the dog? Why can't they do something to make up for the tremendous Kol Hashem? When are we going to learn from the Tanzanians, Rabbi Sai? It only remains now to say again, so how are we supposed to react to the Nakba? We're supposed to react by, first of all, we have to say a lachash, a certain formula. If you're afraid that maybe Flatbush Mama and Lady Leah, she's no lady, is going to turn their attention to you, to your thing. Maybe they're going to want to do a kiddush by you. They're going to want to do who knows what, start a minyan. That's what they're going to want to do. So you want to prevent yourself. The rabbis of Flatbush are too busy 24/6. They're fighting Yom and Balayla. They're fighting so hard. The rabbis and the rebbetzes, they have no time to discuss what the bottom of Flatbush says, whether it should be held in a restaurant by us, whether they should cater it. They have no time for these things. They have no time to tell us to be mispalel, to say a capital Tillim, to condemn any of these oisvafen. They have no time. And that's why we have the problem in the state. So what are we supposed to do? We're afraid it's having a Rishon on us. So they told me secretly a lachash. A lachash is a formula, like a spell that you can say to prevent Flatbush corrupt the mama and the evil Leah. Lady, she's no lady, Leah. And their company, the miscreants who support them. How do you know? Do you have to say like this? No, 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 no. That's for all the ends. No, 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 no. No. Noshim, Nachashtos, that's three and so far. No, Noshim, Nachashtos, New Year's parties, Nakba, na, 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 na. I will not celebrate Rosh Hashanah with them. V'yenatzel, they will be saved. You understand? You have to say that because the Rabbanim got a petek that said to prevent us from the nakba of the noshim, nechashtois, negligent, nefarious, nudnikos. You have to use the N words. And therefore, you have to sing a niggin for them. Na, na, oh, it is a nakba. The nechashos, New Year celebration. I say, hey, na, na. I will go, not, na, na, go, na, not go to the celebration. If you say this lachish and you sing this song, then we have a good rabbinic authority from the hundreds of rabbis and rebbetzins who are all with you in heart. They encourage you. But they're too busy fighting for the future of our yeshivot. We can depend on them. They've done so much. God bless Haratzkohanim, Chatzkel Bennett, Josh Melvin, and the rest. God bless what they tell the Rabbanim. They might as well be speaking to them in Hungarian and Budapest. You understand? A bluff, a mishigas. Can somebody get the message to the leaders of AGUDA? We want to see them doing something on 801A. It's very nice to say, Zagat extra capital till on Asar B'Tevis. If Rabbi Zweibel said this is the most important and dangerous thing he knows since 1984, 34 years ago, don't you think there should be a little more? Maybe there should be a Tehillim rally. Maybe there should be a strong rally and say, we pledge not to vote for any of them. And not only that, they should put together a $2 million casa in no time at all. $2 million. You know that Vishnitz just wanted to complete something in Beit Shemesh. They made one of these telephone campaigns, one of these internet campaigns, and in a few days, they had over 40 million shekel, which is like $10 million. Vishnitz can raise that, and the Klal Yisrael AGUDA, the Vasikilom, Agedachos, Gelten fressen, come to the convention, Gelten fressen, V is the Geld, put together the money for the lawyers, challenge the darn things in court, immediately. Don't wait. Don't negotiate and kiss up. Show them firmness. They'll make behind the scenes. You have to do it quietly. You have to shash still. Yeah, shash still. So it said, we'll suffer from your shash still for the last 40 years with the shash still. Like when they made a deal, we're not going to do too much to fight Mishkav Zachar marriage. It's happening anyhow. Rabbi Sharon said the philosophy is if we can't convince them, don't do anything. That's how Mishkav Zachar marriage passed. Because they took the tap money for yeshivas, and that's it. You know what's going to happen now? There's a Markey bill. There's a threat of the Markey bill that now they can pass the Markey bill and sue yeshivas and sue Catholic schools and everything else. So they're going to twist the arms of the Catholic schools, the yeshivas. Stop your opposition to what we're doing with sending in people from the local school boards to check your curricula and pushing 8013. And if not, we're going to pass the Markey bill with no exemptions for yeshivas, and you're going to all get bankrupt. Oh, so that's what's going to happen. So that's going to be another excuse to capitulate. They always have an excuse to capitulate. This is Yehuda Levin. Until this time next week, I am pleading with you. Spread the word about this. I forgot to mention the hotline number, but let people know this fight ain't over as long as we have a breath. Na 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 no to the nechashtot noshim of the New Year's and the Nakba. No celebration of their Rosh Hashanah. No. Kol tuv saler, Rabbi Say. A guten Tag.